Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we're diving into something really interesting that one of you sent our way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a 1997 article from the fourth decade, and it's all about Lee Harvey Oswald
Okay.
and his supposed connection to Albert Schweitzer College.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we'll call it ASC for short.
Okay.
So this article is really interesting. It's about these newly released FBI documents, and they came out in 1995, and they seem to contradict what the Warren Commission said about Oswald.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going back in time a little bit today.
Okay.
And to help us unpack all this, we have an expert with us who's amazing at analyzing these old documents and finding out the truth.
Well, thanks. It's amazing how just one little document can change the whole way we see history, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so just to kind of set the stage here, the Warren report said that Oswald applied to ASC in the spring of '59,
Right.
got accepted, but never actually went because he, well, went to the Soviet Union.
Right.
But these FBI memos, there's one specifically from October 12, 1960,
Okay.
that says something different. It says he actually applied in the fall of '59.
Oh, wow. So there's a discrepancy in the timeline already.
Yeah, and even more than that, it says he wrote to ASC from Moscow.
Oh, so he was already there.
Yeah.
That doesn't really line up with what the Warren Commission said.
No, not at all. And get this, it also says that his mom, Marguerite,
Mm.
was writing to him at the ASC address.
So she knew where he was.
It seems that way, yeah. Which is really strange because why wouldn't the Warren Commission say any of this? Did they even know about this memo?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, and to make it even weirder, there's another memo from November 3rd of the same year.
60, yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to what the Warren report said, but it doesn't explain why it's different from the first memo.
Huh. That's very strange.
Right, it's almost like they're trying to hide something, isn't it?
Well, the author of this article, Dennis Bartholomew, he really dove into this.
Okay.
He contacted the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston.
Okay.
They were the main sponsors of ASC.
So before we get into all that, can you tell us a little bit about ASC? What was it like? Why would Oswald even want to go there?
So ASC was actually a pretty unique place. It
Oh.
was small, experimental, not accredited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was in a remote Swiss village.
So very different from Texas and New Orleans and all that.
Totally, yeah, and their main focus was promoting peace
Okay.
and understanding between cultures. It was kind of like a place where people from all over could come together, to learn from each other, talk about big ideas, that kind of thing.
So kind of idealistic, like a utopia almost?
Yeah, you could say that.
So not really the kind of place you'd think Oswald would be drawn to.
Right, exactly. And Bartholomew, when he looked into their archives
Hmm.
at the Unitarian Universalist Association, he found that there were some gaps in the records, especially from 58 to 62.
Oh, so right during the time we're talking about.
Yeah, the key years here.
Suspicious.
A little bit, yeah, like maybe someone didn't want that information to get out.
So what did he find? Was there anything about Oswald?
He found some stuff, like student lists, letters, that kind of thing, but some key stuff was missing.
Like what?
Well, he found 2 student lists from ASC. One's probably from the fall of '59, and it doesn't have Oswald's name on it.
Okay.
But the second one, from February 9, 1960, it does list him as a student.
So was he a student or not?
Well, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
If his application was processed sometime between those 2 lists,
Yeah.
that means he was already in the Soviet Union.
Right. Wow.
And that directly contradicts the Warren report.
And remember his mom writing to him at ASC.
Right.
Bartholomew looked into her letters to the school too, and he found some inconsistencies in what she said, especially about the timeline.
Oh, so maybe she wasn't telling the whole truth.
It seems like it, yeah.
And there's this other thing, an FBI report said that it took them forever to find ASC.
Really?
Yeah, they said it was previously unknown, and there was no official record of it.
But Margaret was already talking to the school's director.
Right, exactly. So how could the FBI not find it? It's really strange.
Super strange.
Yeah, and the Warren report says they got the ASD documents directly from Marguerite.
Okay.
They're listed as Exhibits 228 through 236 and Volume 16 of the report.
Wow, he really did his homework.
Yeah, but even with all that, some really important documents are still missing.
Like what?
Oswald's acceptance letter, for one.
Hmm.
And there was this ASC brochure that Marguerite told the Warren Commission about.
Yeah.
She said she thought it was weird because it was from 1960 when Oswald was already in the Soviet Union.
Right.
Well, that brochure, It's gone.
Okay, so we've got missing documents, weird timelines, and the FBI saying one thing and the Warren Commission another.
It's a mess.
Yeah, what else did Bartholomew find?
So he found some records about what happened to any documents that were still left at ASC.
Okay.
Meeting minutes from 1964 say that they sent all the Oswald stuff to the U.S.
Which is what Marguerite said too, right?
Yeah, but then there's this other thing. Dr. Schacht, he handled Oswald's application at ASC.
Right.
He told the FBI in '63 that police had just been there looking at Oswald's records.
Wait, so were the documents sent to the U.S. or not?
It's not clear.
Very confusing.
Yeah, and there's this letter that Bartholomew found from Erica Weibel. She worked at ASC.
Okay.
She wrote to Dr. Schacht to remind him about Oswald's application.
Remind him.
Yeah, and that he accepted him.
So did Dr. Schacht not remember?
Well, in his reply, he said his memory would have been lost without her reminder.
That's weird.
It is, right? You'd think he'd remember something like that.
Especially with everything that happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is right after the assassination.
Right.
When everyone's trying to figure out who Oswald was and what he was up to.
So what did Bartholomew make of all this?
Well, he thinks there's enough to say that the October 12th FBI memo might actually be right.
Okay.
And he criticizes the FBI for not releasing this stuff sooner. You know, holding on to it until 95.
Yeah.
It just makes everything more mysterious.
Okay, so he's basically saying that the official story might not be the whole story?
Right.
But what does that mean? What if Oswald was talking to ASC from Moscow, like that memo says?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It makes you wonder what else the Warren Commission might have missed.
Right, or maybe things they just decided not to include.
Yeah, it makes you think about Oswald's motives. What was he really doing in the lead up to the assassination?
It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and we're just getting started.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a lot more to talk about, so we'll get to that after the break.
Sounds good. Hashtag TTS The Deep Dive, episode 2024-12-16, part 2 of 3.
So Bartholomew really dug into Oswald's application to ASC, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He found some pretty weird stuff, like the way Oswald listed his references.
Okay.
Like he made it almost impossible to actually contact them.
So it sounds like he didn't really want anyone to check up on him.
Yeah, maybe. And then the Warren report, they have a typed version of Oswald's application, but it's missing one of the references completely.
Yeah. Hold on. Are we talking like someone messed with his application?
It's possible, right? Especially with all these other things not making sense.
It's kind of creepy, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if this whole ASC thing was even real. You know, was he really trying to study there, or was it something else?
Right. Was he like using it as a cover or something?
Maybe he was just trying to disappear, you know? Start a new life.
Or maybe he was trying to connect with some people, like, you know, other communists or something.
Could be. But remember, ASC was really isolated. It wasn't exactly a hotbed of revolutionary activity.
True, unless he was trying to lay low for a while, you know, before doing something big.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what was going on in his head?
Right, and that's the thing. He was such a complicated guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's hard to figure out.
Yeah, it's like every time we try to get a handle on him, he slips away.
Exactly, and that's what makes all this so interesting, right? There's so much we still don't know.
So what do we do? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think Bartholomew's work is a good start. He pointed out some really important things that don't add up.
But we're still missing so much information. Those documents, they could have the answers.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
But what if those pieces are still out there somewhere, like in some archive or someone's basement?
That's what keeps us going, you know? The hope that we might still find something that changes everything.
Yeah, and sometimes those discoveries come when you least expect them.
That's true.
Like, you know, remember that thing about Oswald's references being hard to contact? Well, Bartholomew looked into them, and he found some pretty surprising connections.
Oh, yeah. What kind of connection?
To organized crime.
What?
Really? Yeah, some of those people Oswald listed, they had ties to the mob.
But Oswald is a communist. He hated capitalism.
I know. It's weird, right? Why would he be connected to those kinds of people?
It's a good question, and honestly, no one really knows for sure.
So how do we make sense of this?
Well, we have to be careful, you know, not jump to conclusions.
Right, we need to stick to the facts.
Exactly. So let's look at what we know for sure. Bartholomew traced some of these guys back to specific criminal organizations.
Okay, and these are the same people Oswald said were, like, vouching for his character.
Yep, pretty strange.
Super strange. It's like, was he lying? Or was he caught up in something much bigger than we realize?
It's possible. And
Yeah.
and that's what I think is so fascinating about all this.
Yeah, it's like this giant web, and the more you pull on one thread, the more tangled it gets.
And that's how history works. A lot of the time, it's rarely a straightforward story.
It's like a detective novel, full of twists and turns.
Exactly. And with the Kennedy assassination, there are so many clues out there,
Yeah.
but it's hard to know which ones to follow.
And even if we find all the clues, will we ever really know the truth? I mean, it's been so long.
That's true, but that's not a reason to stop searching, right?
No, I guess not. The truth's as important, even if it's hard to find.
Absolutely. And who knows? Maybe we're closer than we think.
Okay, so we've talked about the official story not adding up and these mob connections.
Right.
What else is there? Bartholomew mentions another group, right?
Yeah, he does. There's this group called INCA, the Information Council of the Americas.
INCA, what were they all about?
They were pretty intense anti-communists. They really believed that communism was a threat to America.
Okay, and what does that have to do with Oswald?
Well, they saw him as someone they could use.
Use, like...
Yeah. They helped him stage those pro-Castro demonstrations in New Orleans.
You're kidding.
Nope. And they even set up a radio debate where Oswald could talk about his support for Castro.
So they were like putting him front and center, making him the face of pro-Castro sentiment.
Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it?
Super strange. But why? Why would they do that?
Well, there are a couple of theories. Some people think they were trying to expose other communists in the U.S.
Okay.
Like use Oswald as bait to draw them out.
Okay, so like a sting operation or something?
Yeah, kind of. But others think they were trying to make the Fair Play for Cuba committee look bad.
Oh, the group that wanted better relations with Cuba.
Yeah, they figured if they could connect them to Oswald, people would think they were all a bunch of crazies.
So they were using him to manipulate public opinion.
Pretty much. And then after the assassination, they really leaned into it. They released the recording of that radio debate. They called it a truth tape. And they said it proved that Oswald was a communist and part of a conspiracy to kill Kennedy.
Wow, it's kind of hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, and it gets even more complicated when you realize that some of the people in INCA,
Yeah.
they had financial interests in Cuba.
So they stood to lose money if Castro stayed in power.
Exactly. So you have to wonder how much of their anti-communism was really about ideology and how much was about protecting their own wallets.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the rhetoric, but sometimes it's all about money.
And power. Don't forget power.
Right. And with the Kennedy assassination, there were a lot of powerful people who might have wanted to control the narrative.
And make sure certain secrets stayed buried.
Yeah. And maybe Bartholomew only scratched the surface.
Maybe there's a much bigger conspiracy here, something that goes beyond INCA.
Like, who else might have been involved?
Yeah, what about the government? The CIA?
Whoa, hold on. You're saying they might have had something to do with it.
I'm not saying they did,
Yeah.
but it's worth considering, right?
I mean, if they were involved, why would they want Oswald dead?
That's the million-dollar question. Hashtag TTS, the Deep Dive episode, 2024-12-16, part 3 of 3.
It's scary to think about.
It is, and it brings us back to those missing documents. What happened to them? Were they just lost, or did someone make them disappear?
And if we could find them, what would they tell us? Would they change everything we think we know about the assassination?
It's possible, and it's not just about the past either. It's about how we see the world today. If powerful people could manipulate things like that, cover up something as big as the Kennedy assassination,
Mm-hmm.
what does that say about the power structures we live with?
Yeah, it's a really unsettling thought, and it makes me think about this whole thing with Oswald and ASC.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like a mini version of the whole Kennedy assassination mystery. There are so many things we don't know, so many different stories.
Yeah. Right, and it shows us that history isn't just a set of facts. It's a process. We're always discovering new things, reinterpreting what we thought we knew.
And we have to be a part of that process, right? We can't just sit back and accept what we're told.
Exactly. We have to think critically, question things, ask for evidence, and be ready to face some uncomfortable truths, even if they make us rethink everything.
Yeah, it's easy to just go with the simplest explanation, the one that makes the most sense, but that doesn't always mean it's true.
And sometimes the truth is messy, it's hidden, it's hard to find, but it's worth fighting for.
Because it's the only way we can learn from the past, understand what's happening now, and maybe make things better in the future.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This has been a really amazing deep dive.
Yeah, I've learned so much. Thank you for guiding us through all this.
It's been my pleasure, and it just goes to show, even after all these years, there's still so much we don't know about the Kennedy assassination.
And it's important to keep looking for answers, even if it takes a long time.
The truth is out there somewhere.
Maybe we'll find it one day.
Hopefully.
I want to thank you again for joining us, and thank you to all our listeners for sending in this article.
Yeah, keep those questions coming. There's always more to explore.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep diving deep.